Good afternoon. Welcome to DiversiTV. I'm Mark Harris, your host. This is our second to the last show in the series of diversity issues as they affect Lane Community College extended community. Go to slide for a second. Just to recap our schedule, we're in week 7. This week is disability issues. Next week we'll be doing youth as a diversity category. Our purpose is to, so to speak, give the mic and shed light on issues that people are not usually aware of, and give the mic to people who don't always get it, in this case the mic and the camera, to give people voice and to start simple and work towards a common understanding. In terms of DiversiTV and disability as an issue, one of the things that I could point out is that disability is the one issue that will affect us all personally, especially as we age, and many of us for all of our lives. The phrase, which may sound politically correct, people with disabilities, is at least meant to emphasize that unique human beings exist who possess fully functioning minds, fully feeling hearts, and deeply felt souls, and they're inside packages of flesh and blood which may be different than what we expect. So some broad categories of disabilities, which include sensory, such as vision, hearing, and speech, mobility, whether most people are familiar with people who are para or quadriplegic, have spinal cord injuries or illness-related paralysis, developmental disabilities such as autism, Asperger's, mild developmental disability, sometimes known by its old name retardation, cognitive disabilities such as dyslexia, learning disabilities, ADHD, psychiatric disabilities with the Iraq War, things such as PTSD, traumatic brain injury, bipolar, obsessive compulsive disorder, health disabilities like diabetes, HIV, AIDS, hypertension, epilepsy. If we were going to look at more exhaustive lists, and this list isn't by no means exhaustive, one of our guests informed me that Stanford, for example, says there could be thousands, and if you just look at these 12 categories, which we're not even going to go into all of them, just under health, if I were to zoom in, so abdominal pain, alcohol-responsive myoclonus, cirrhosis of the liver, congestive heart failure, fetal alcohol syndrome, hyperlipidemia, hypertension, kidney disease, physical disabilities which include amputation, arthritis, back injury, Bell's palsy, and more. Quite an exhaustive subject, quite an exhaustive category. One of the basic strategies, if we were going to talk about the exhaustive list, and we're not going to have time, obviously, to go through all of them in an hour, but the basic strategy around disabilities is to provide equal access around barriers. And often at least in terms of assistive technology and also the offices that are dealing with those things are called accommodations, as in making people feel welcome. And just as there are visible and invisible disabilities, there are obvious, overt, and hidden, covert barriers. Both are of designed origin. So we basically, oftentimes our attitudes as well as our architecture represent access or creating barriers. So they can be removed. Both obvious and hidden barriers can be removed through a process of education and illumination. So our guest tonight, starting in the middle, Lynn Lodge from Lane Disability Services. On her left, Lisa Davis, a Lane Community College student, and on Lynn's right, Thomas Gaffney is also a Lane Community College student. Welcome, all of you.
Thank you.
So, who'd like to go first? Lynn, remember our conversation of only an hour ago. What do you do here?
I coordinate the alternate format program here at the college, and that involves reformatting materials for students who have print disabilities, and we reformat to say Braille, enlarged print, audio format, and text format for the different, depending on what the student's disability is and what their needs are.
I'd like to hear from the students. Ladies first. What do you study?
Psychology.
Okay.
I partake of those services. I have my materials prepared in a digital format, whereas a sighted student would go to the bookstore and pick up the book. I have it scanned to CD and download it to my computer and review my materials that way. I also get Braille materials for math, say, and also tactile materials. That's something new and exciting that I haven't really had much experience with. The previous college that I was at didn't have the capacity to produce materials like that, but here if I need charts or graphs or any kind of visual aids, they can be produced in tactile form.
Cool. So entire psychology textbooks scanned and put on a CD?
Yep. The publishers are getting better about providing digital formats for the college to get a hold of, rather than the staff at the Disability Services office having to break apart the book and scan page by page. So that's certainly helpful.
And the college you were at didn't have that kind of technology, so this isn't universal?
No. This school is light years ahead of the previous school that I was attending. They would record everything onto tape. That was the best they could do. They couldn't provide digital formats of anything. I was amazed that they could get a hold of a Braille math book.
Thomas, what do you study?
I'm a human services major, and basically the kind of things that I face are with bipolar disorder and PTSD. At times I don't sleep for days, and trying to do homework is a little bit strained. I have problems sometimes when I get like in a bubble and everything's on the outside, and no matter what I do, I can't break through that. And it's really hard to function when things are like that, because well, it's almost like being in another dimension where the laws of physics don't apply. Mm-hmm. And no matter what you do, it just bounces back at you, and it's everything's out of kilter. And that's part of what I deal with. I also have panic disorder and agoraphobia, so it took me a month coming out here to be able to get comfortable just to be around the school. Mm. So there's just a lot of things that, if you want to function, if you want to have a life, you got to figure out what to do, how to get around things. And and I really think that a lot of people, they look at you and they don't see anything that's obviously wrong, and yet, they just don't have a clue, because I struggle really hard. I'm not intellectually, I'm a pretty bright person, but if you put me under pressure, I melt down. I can't access information. So.
I think that's true of, all of us, really. How, Lynn, how we were talking about in your office how you came to this work, and talking about some of the barriers that you face in terms of your learning curve. Could you talk about that a little?
Sure. I started in disability services about 5 years ago at the front desk, and I took the first job I could find. I didn't seek out a position in disability services. I ended up being unexpectedly a single mom, and I had to immediately make some money and feed my 4 kids. And so I took the job, and I came into the department with a lot of preconceived notions and assumptions about disability in general. And I came from a culture of public school, the public school arena, where those that were identified with disabilities were often relegated to private classrooms to be taught. And there were a lot of prejudices, I would say, and a lot of it's real easy to make assumptions about people, and I felt like I entered the department with those assumptions in place, and the learning curve for me has been really steep. And I've learned that you need to really value these people as unique human beings, and that it's not, you need to be consciously aware of the fact that you need to lay down your assumptions and identify them as people and learn to deal with them just like you would any other person on the planet, with flexibility and openness, and learning to lay down your own assumptions, I guess, is the bottom line.
Saw you nodding at that, Lisa.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that?
Well, my disability is really secondary to who I am as a person and what I do. It is a factor in my life. It is a characteristic of me, but it doesn't define the person that I am. And so many people see my external difference and focus on that dissimilarity and fail to recognize all of the underlying similarities between myself and a able-bodied person. And I consider myself lucky to have a automatically recognizable disability. I think the people that have invisible disabilities have a much harder time. I feel like people, when they see my cane and when they see my dog, they have some sense of how they could be of assistance to me, and they take my visual disability into account. They wouldn't ask me to do something that a not seeing person couldn't do, whereas somebody that has a psychiatric disability wouldn't have that same accommodation, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. I guess taken to a negative extreme, it could be almost, I mean, when you said easier, it could be almost people bending over backwards, being patronizing to be helping.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly, that's another issue as well. I find people are very condescending when I meet somebody and they talk to me like I'm a child, and I talk to them in a normal tone of voice and carry on an intelligent conversation, and they keep speaking down to me and saying, "Oh, sweetie," and this and that. It's hard to not be insulted by that. I've learned not to take it personally. I realize that it is their ignorance or their lack of experience. They haven't been forced to move outside their assumptions, and I try and play that role in their social development if I can. But yeah, that certainly is an issue.
Thomas, when it comes up for you, because we've been talking about invisible disabilities, and how do people treat you when they first find out if you reveal that?
A lot of them move away real fast. And, you know,
Fear.
yeah, I mean, that and you know, there's a judgment, you know, that you're insane or that you're gonna wig out or you're gonna do something that will embarrass them, you know, and you know, they just have no idea how much energy you put into making sure that nobody knows. You know, it's just, it's one of those things, you know. I mean, I am in awe of this lady here, you know, with the things that, you know, I've seen her around a lot, and she's just, to me, she's just amazing. But,
Lisa. Yeah.
it's just like the problems that I have, you know, it's like, who do I talk to about them, you know? How can you share that with people and not have them stigmatize you, you know? And so, you know, for a long time, you know, I was a recluse, and to an extent I still am, but comparatively speaking, I'm not. You know, I'm out doing things, and I'm out trying to get an education to learn how to socialize, I guess. You know?
But you're also going to human services, which means that you intend to help people with that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of my history that would be, that would lend itself to that. And, you know, what I've been through gives me a lot of compassion for others. And, you know.
I think, was I interrupting?
No.
I think one of the things about, when I was talking about removing barriers, is putting the experience of people with disabilities in the context of the broader human experience, without necessarily having, you know, for example, to talk about, you know, with Lynn, I was thinking about, you know, we were talking in her office an hour or so ago about, okay, Homer and the Iliad, and, you know, I'm a musician, so I immediately go to Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles and Jose Feliciano and, you know, famous blind musicians, you know, that well, they're like regular people. Well, duh, of course they're like regular people, and there is a certain experience that goes along that we were talking about with, you know, when the poster that's on the wall of Disability Services, for example, let me show you this for you folks at home. What you can't necessarily see is what this is: two hands on a keyboard on a TDY line. It's a deaf person ordering, or actually, no, not, who ordering a pizza. So, for example, this, let's see, image rotation. The caption reads, "It took an act of Congress to order this pizza, one large pepperoni." And basically the caption says, until recently, if you had a hearing disability, you couldn't call anyone who wasn't equipped with a special phone. But now, thanks to the Americans with Disabilities Act, phone companies furnish relay services to anyone who needs them. So in other words, for example, if you have the rich guy in a wheelchair who testifies before Congress, and then that helps get the Americans with Disabilities Act passed. Until then, many in the disabled community felt that they didn't have a voice, and that arguably so. They didn't have a voice until somebody with money and power showed up and said, okay, you will do this. And so, for example, some of the experiences that I've had with a number of my clients, where coming from economically challenged backgrounds, poor backgrounds, and being deaf, or being blind, or having, various forms of mental illness, fetal alcohol syndrome, those kind of assistive technologies don't necessarily get access to them. They aren't given to them. And so there is that element in terms of dealing with these types of issues where it could be you have an extra challenge to deal with. So in addition to having a disability, visible or otherwise, being also poor and having barriers placed in front of you, and then being exceptional for overcoming those barriers and becoming famous. Lisa, when you're studying psychology, what do you intend to do with that?
I'm not really sure yet. I'm most interested to work with kids. I don't know the way that I make a difference in the realm of psychology is going to pertain to disability awareness. I'm really interested in psychobiology, so we'll see where that takes me. But I was wanting to say that I think that familiarity and experience are the best means to empowering people in society. I guess what I mean is members of society are able to see disabled people for the individuals, for the capable individuals that we are through personal experience. And it's hard to look down on somebody or dehumanize somebody that you can really relate to. And through experience with a disabled person, a able-bodied person really does come to relate to them much more so than they would if they were just seeing that disabled person out on the street. I think that's huge.
Do you find people seeing you on the street, if they see you here, there is that issue, one of the things, the attitudinal barriers that people at home can't see the slide here, but basically one of them is invisibility. I know of the syndrome where I'm walking down the street and somebody with a wheelchair and, if you're able-bodied, you look away.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. People are uncomfortable. They don't know what to say. They want to approach you, but they don't want to step on your toes. They don't want to embarrass themselves or make you feel bad, and so they don't really know how to open up a conversation. I find my dog is an excellent tool to allow a much greater level of social interaction, because people can come up and talk to me about my dog. They don't really have so much to say to me if I'm standing there with a cane, but they can say, "Oh, what's your dog's name?" or what kind of breed is that? Or, "Oh, I used to have a black lab." Or there's just so many ways that people can approach me because of having my dog with me. It definitely humanizes me a lot.
You can be related to as she's not a pet. She's more than a pet. She's a companion.
Yeah. That is true, and people will certainly ask me questions about what it is that she does for me, but the point is that having my dog by my side, allows people to have some common ground in mind to start a conversation from when they otherwise might not.
What kind of awareness building exercises, or not exercises, I should say, more practices does your office deal with in terms of raising awareness for people?
We have several things in place that we try to do with our department head tries to educate faculty. We've got a lot of information on our website, that addresses some with links to different issues. The website, first and foremost, is academically based, but there are links that will take you to different informational sites. And speaking engagements in the community, advocating for the disabled population.
I know one of the things that, as a faculty member, one of the things that can be difficult, and I'll just cap on my own bargaining unit in terms of dealing with people, both in my office in substance abuse prevention, and also just advocating for people who may, for example, recovery, substance abuse recovery, addiction recovery, PTSD, a number of things are, invisible disabilities that people have trouble with in terms of their academic success. And so even among the so-called educated, because you expect people with PhDs to have, a larger bandwidth of experience, to be a little bit more tolerant, and they seem to be less so. It's almost a reverse of the patronizing attitude that you get with someone with a more visible disability. They figure, oh, well, just what could you have gone through? You're here, just, pay your money, take your test just like anyone else, when not necessarily even people with psychology degrees who know about, for example, Thomas, you referenced agoraphobia. So not only is it, a challenge for you to be in a public place like a community college. I mean, I applaud you for being on television, even though that's a different experience, your image being broadcast out there in that sense. But one of the problems that often faculty have in trying to even get to understand is that normalizing experience, is that people want to learn, they want to basically have greater access, and that the faculty member themselves becomes the barrier through their own ignorance. Part of, so Thomas, you're basically engaged in human services.
Yes.
And you don't necessarily have to reveal, you can choose your level of self-disclosure, because as you know, that's part of our field in terms of helping people that have been through situations like yours. How much of a value do you feel telling that story is for you personally?
Well, I think it's immensely important, because fear is usually anchored in lack of knowledge. And if people can just learn to accept, that everybody's got things that are special about them, and nobody. I mean, take somebody that has to hide all these issues that they have. How much of their personal energy are they spending that way? That they could be, I don't know, using in a lot more positive sense, and people need to understand, that just because people are different doesn't make them dangerous or a threat or something that should be castigated. And that's why I really wanted to be here, is to just put some stuff out there.
If you were, so let's talk about barriers and ways around them. What are some of the barriers that you see professionally, Lynn?
Within the context of alternate format,
Sure.
I see publishers that are unwilling to comply with the law. I see students needing access, and sometimes immediate access, because we're an open door community or community college, and alternate formats kind of in the middle. We've got to get the materials to the student and within a time frame, and they clash often, and it's a struggle, it's a barrier, and we need to be in legal compliance to the law at the same time, and it's a tough road to haul at times.
When you say the law, are you saying that publishers are required to publish materials in alternate formats for differently abled populations? They are required to do that?
Yes, they're supposed to provide access, and they choose to disregard the law. And there is a lot of legislation in the works now, both at the federal level and at the state level, to try to provide better access for students who need it.
Do you find the carrot or the stick approach works better? I mean, if it's the law, then why aren't they being sued? Why aren't they being compliant?
Well, I think that is the big question behind it all, because we can speculate that, the books are written, they're already in electronic format, they're transferred from editors electronically, they're transferred to print houses electronically, so why won't they release that electronic copy to the population of students that need it? I think it comes down to money a lot of times. That would be my personal opinion.
Yeah, but that's a good guess in terms of barriers.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, same question.
What barriers would a student in my position encounter?
Not only encounter, but maybe some of the ways around them too.
I think the biggest way around barriers is just availability of services. Moving up here was just such a dramatic difference in my life and my independence. I came from San Diego area in Southern California, and not having a viable public transit system, not having a disability services office that really could provide the services I need, not having state programs available for the blind that really could fill in the gaps between what the college could provide and what I, as a student, was expected to be able to provide for myself, that my disability prevented me from doing. I think that having the services available and accessing them is the greatest way I know to work around the barriers that I face as a student.
Suppose you were going to redesign the system. Big question, I know, but I bet you thought about it just from the point of view of not having stuff.
Yeah, I feel like there's still a lot of gaps that really make or break someone's attempt to pursue their dreams, or their ability to wade through those gaps, make or break their ability to pursue their dreams. I think that through Lane, there are a variety of services available that are awesome, and at the state level, the Commission for the Blind provides a lot of services for blind individuals in seeking education or vocational skills. But I feel like there are areas where neither the college nor the state really wants to provide particular services, and you just do the best you can. I don't know how I would redesign the whole system. say probably more funding and involve more more representatives of the disability population in decision making.
Other than, they say, the Commission for the Blind and other groups like that.
Pardon?
Well, I was thinking, yeah, more funding,
Yeah.
more representation. I mean,
Yeah.
because you reference specific group like the State Commission for the Blind,
Yeah.
right?
They're like the #1 state agency that serves